Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third installation of our In Real Time series. This episode is called Premonitions, White Buffalo Calf Woman, Peace Portals, and Garden Gifts. And this, I promise you, will all make sense very, very shortly. So how does this begin? It starts with me being observant at the end of April. Just sitting on my balcony, looking out over the gardens, and noticing one morning in the far corner, as of course everything is starting to come into bloom and everything's getting greened up out there, sort of tucked behind this little bush area, there was this small sort of assembly of grasses that were standing out, and they looked like this almost perfectly manicured little bush that took the shape of a little white buffalo. And I say this because it was probably only about 1.5 feet high and maybe a couple of feet long from end to end. And realistically, it was probably 2 small grassy shrubs all put together. But from my vantage point, this is what it looked like. Now, to put into context for myself, at this time, I had been coming off of that solar eclipse that we had and everything else, and all the energy integration, and I was coming off a recommitment to working with my energy, working with the divine energy coming through and onto this planet, and specifically to work with the animals and the planet herself and really devote myself to that. Now, of course, this is still part and parcel of devoting energy work and healing and spiritual work to humanity. But there's a very separate component when you start talking about trying to heal the earth, the soul lines, the ley lines, the song lines, and then being here for the animals, the trees, the spirits, the elementals, and really trying to bridge that gap with healing and energy, love and light. So I had just finished doing this. When I saw this little buffalo, it just occurred to me that, this was like a sign from the white buffalo calf woman, who is this beautiful, glorious ascended master, a gorgeous divine feminine archetype that is so powerful and so integral, especially in our indigenous cultures. Very strong, that sort of overarching, almost like an Isis archetype, where you have this huge sort of goddess power that comes through, and this absolution, this knowing that her power, her lightning, gorgeous energy is here to help us to live with grace and to honor this planet with integrity and authenticity and everything that we are to each other. To honor it just like they used to honor the buffalo, where the buffalo was pure abundance. It gave you everything you needed. And there was honor and grace in that beauty, in that tradition of honoring the animal as they made that sacrifice for their tribe. So I digress a little, but that's sort of the background on that. So to let you guys know a bit more about White Buffalo Woman, she is the woman of 1,000 white clouds. And it was also at the end of May when in the sky there was just this beautiful assembly of these tiny little clouds just everywhere, thousands of them. So it brought her to my mind again. It kind of happened over a few weeks, and then I kind of, looked down at the garden and, there's that little white buffalo, and it's kind of growing a little bit, like it's a little bigger than it was. And why is it white? Well, it's because the grass shrubs still hadn't come into their full green up yet. So they were still in their dormancy. And it stood out like, a sore thumb against the green background of everything that was lush at this point. So a little more time goes on, and it's, I think about June 8th or 9th. I can't exactly remember when. And this is 2024, of course. But I was in this meditation group, and there was a chat in the Zoom that we were all part of. It was an online webinar. And I noticed that there was a side chat going on between these 2 women. And one said, "Hey, did you see the miracle in Yellowstone?" And the other woman was like, "Yeah, I totally caught that. Isn't that amazing?" I'm like, "Yellowstone?" I'm like, "Oh, they must mean Yellowstone National Park." And they didn't say much else. And I was just kind of thought, oh, my curiosity got the best of me. Let's go take a peek. This happens often. So I'm still in this session, but they're talking, so that, well, I'll just go quickly look it up on the web while they're talking. And all of a sudden it says, white buffalo calf born in Yellowstone National Park on June 4th. And I just sat there for a minute and kind of reeled with that information and thought, holy cow, you've got to be joking. I'm like, wait a second, does this happen a lot? Like my brain is just going, right? So I look it up. Oh no, a white buffalo calf being born is like 1 in a million. Now that's not to say it doesn't happen more regularly, like every year or year to year or every few years, like whatever the case may be. But especially in Indigenous cultures, they understand perfectly well that the arrival of the white buffalo calf is a blessing. It is pure abundance. It is the things that they need for their spiritual path to move forward on their journey. And it is a blessing from her. So when I saw this, of course, for me, I just kind of looked back at the garden. I thought, is it still there? I'm like, yes, it's still there. It was really cute, actually. So after this, I just sat with it for a while and I thought, oh, that's so interesting. I wonder if there was a little more to it. Like, was this just my confirmation of, yes, I'm on the right track? Yes, I'm meant to work with plant medicine and animal energy and healing with the divine energies that I channel through from the cosmos? Or was there even more to it than that? So this brings us to what we're going to call the premonition piece. You already know now what the garden gift is, right? Okay. So the premonition piece. And what I mean by this is I'm not thinking of it as in being able to see the future per se. I'm not looking at it as this, the oracles of Delphi or something where people would come to them and say, what's going to happen now? And you could foresee the future. I wasn't really looking at it that way per se. I was just looking at more of getting signs from the universe, signs from our ascended masters, from spirit, from guides, whatever you're comfortable with. You do you. I really wondered in that moment if I was being connected directly with white buffalo calf woman, almost being called to her, through her, as an ascended master, as an archetype of the divine Christed feminine, to do my work in that way. So then I really wanted to read up on her, which I did. And there was so much there that echoed with me. I won't even go into it right now. We'll save it for another episode. I will definitely dive deeper into this with all of you so I can spread the wisdom and knowledge and just what I've learned. But there was a ton of things that basically what we say is it mirrored it back, right? So in that previous episode that we did, and I talked about witnessing and things in the universe that mirror back to you the things you need to know or who you are and the messages that the universe is trying to get across to you, and that for each other, when we tell these stories, we're witnessing it for each other, right? It's sort of like when you get to tell your friend something that's really important, and just the act of saying it out loud sort of releases the energy, It's kind of like when people say, oh, if you have something on your chest, you just got to get it off your chest. You just got to say it or get it out there. Yeah, sometimes you do, just to release it. No different than when people now say, just write a letter. If you have something you've got to say to someone, whether they're on this side of the veil or not, write it down on paper if you can't say it to their face. And a lot of us just burn it. It's like you just release it, transmute it, and get that off of you. Basically get it out of your energetic field is really what we are truly saying. So in this case, I had just wondered if this was something that I was meant to truly absorb, integrate. Like, what was the universe showing me? What was it reflecting back to me that I needed to know? And I didn't know, was it just, not coincidence, but serendipity or whatever, to say, yep, just a confirmation you're on the right path, kiddo? Or was it more than that? As I read more of her story, White Buffalo Calf Woman, I realized, oh yeah, there's more to it, including something called the shonunpa, which is the peace pipe, and another piece, which is verse or, sacred text that's related to her. But there's one part of it that's called miyake oyasin. And there's part of that spelling, and we'll call it that for now, which is word casting, that is actually shown up in my life in a very different way already. So when I find that alignment, I think, wow, like that is what it is showing me. It is showing me something so incredible that I can't look away. Now it's pieces of the puzzle that I sit there with all these bits and say, what does it mean for me? And the more I saw it, the more I realized that this was her telling me things, but it was echoing it back to me. And as I saw it in one form, as in the garden gift of, the shrub that looked like the white buffalo, it didn't take very long for it to show up again and be mirrored back to me through the meditation group in the actual living birth on this earth of a white buffalo calf in Yellowstone Park. As I see all that, I pull it together to say part maybe premonition, but realistically an ongoing thread of a story that is meant to confirm for me as I'm on my path continually to learn to understand me, to understand my gifts as they keep coming online, and to keep seeking the wisdom and the knowledge that's already out there that will help me. For the last part of this conversation, this is going to be more about the peace portal itself and just how it's shown up in a different way. So like we talked about, I said that, this is more of an ongoing sort of weaving or breadcrumbs being dropped along the path to kind of pick up and do more of an understanding of layer by layer what this all means for me, how it reflects. Let's be frank. If you go tomorrow and start telling people, well, I honestly see shapes in the trees. They change from day to day, but there's actual spirits in the trees. The elementals are showing up and they're showing themselves to me. I'm sure that would freak some people out. Not everyone, I can tell you that. And that's been the most amazing, probably past 4 months of my own learning. Just how quickly people are waking up on this planet. It's astounding, actually. We'll get back to that another time. But as it applies to this, part of it is to help me to be more brave and confident in talking about these things openly. The other part is just to really with myself, just to acknowledge it, just to sit there with it and say, wow, I just saw that. And to be happy about this and just elated by it. And I have been, like, over the past 4 or 5 months, whether it's shapes in the clouds or in the water or, in trees and flowers, you name it. Pick your element. Pick whatever aspect you want. Things show up for me. In previous episodes, we talked about shapes in the clouds. I see them consistently. And these aren't just, the bunnies and the whatevers. These are really complicated things that shift. Even one which was, a spear that shifted into a dragon upside down. Like, the things I could tell you almost don't make sense to say it out loud. Like, you're like, wow, I'm watching this. It's like watching a story play out in the sky. No doubt, it made sense later to me. But those are the cool things, right? Even this morning, waking up to the most amazing sunrise. And as I was taking photos of it, I realized I took this one where it was mostly cloudy, and the sun's coming up from behind and it's just glowing, and it's where it punches through the clouds. It's just like radiant. And this one opening in the clouds, it was the perfect outline illustration of a flying dragon. I mean, full on with the wings and everything. It was just gorgeous. And of course, we all know right now that our dragon energy is huge. It is literally the time of the golden dragon that has come in, especially in this 1 week leading up to the age of Aquarius. So just a little bit of side information for you guys there. Getting back to the peace portal, however. So how it showed up 3, almost 4 months later for me, completely different. I've been looking into something called the human design, or gene keys. You may hear that as well. It's basically looking at our spiritual energetic makeup that sort of is the energetic mirror reflection of our DNA. You can look at it as your chakras and all these other points within you. There's meridians and everything that ties into your energetic spiritual auric components, your energetic layers of your energy body or your light body. And then tied to these are these centers that we would call the gene keys. I look at it as the way that we sort of incorporated or deposited into ourselves, into our spiritual light body, these little packets of information that sort of get unwound as we go through life and we integrate and we heal. And it's sort of like, that phrase, you peel back an onion many layers. Well, as we heal and another sort of layer of that onion sort of dissolves away, we keep getting to the heart of whom we are. It feels that as we make our way around sort of this cycle, if you will, of this human design and the gene keys, we get to access more of them, or we get to understand it better and pair up with others that complement us and help us move forward on our path. So for this one aspect of my gene key human design makeup, we'll call it, there is one gene code that I hold in particular, which is the code of achieving peace through conflict. And that has been evident my whole life, hands down, without a doubt. Reading more about that has made me realize part of what I'm really here to do. It's one of my most important gene keys, if you will, which is one of my most important, we'll call it a mission for now, or a soul aspect journey that I'm meant to do and complete and embody while I'm here on this earth. So understanding that immediately, just wow, I was like, oh my God, there you are. There's White Buffalo Calf Woman. There's the Peace Portal. There's the Shanunpa. There is who I'm meant to be. And here's another way that I get to bring that aspect through. And it is through conflict. It is through finding peace and resolution through situations that I either help to mediate or arbitrate, or I'm just a part of and I help people talk through their own conflict, or it's through finding peace of my own, through my own conflict, through some of the hardships of life I've been thrown into, and finding true peace on the other end of that, which honestly is amazing. It's such a blessing. It's a hardship to get to it. Yup, no doubt. It can rip your heart out on the way to it. Many times. Shatter you many times. Been there, done that, been back and forward and back again. Even just this past week alone. But I can tell you that the peace on the other side of it, it's kind of astounding. So for someone that's been to the very depths of the bottom of the pit of emotion and despair multiple times in her life, I will tell you that I'm so glad that I get to wake up every day to this blessing of life that we're here for, and to this amazing planet at this time that I'm saying that we're back for, because this golden age of Aquarius that we're walking into, it will be like none other. Never mind the history books of lore and yore. Nope. They will rewrite everything. We will rewrite everything. This is going to be our actual heaven on earth as it was always meant to be. And we, you and I, everyone listening to this, we are here for this purpose, to usher this in. Make no mistake about it. Even if you're questioning yourself, just sit with that one fact. You were meant to be here at this time now. It is not a mistake. You are needed here now. We all must change and become the new. We must become the people that we wish to see. Become the change you want to see in this world. Every single thing we do matters. So I just ask you to believe in that for now, and believe that there's people like me that will be here for people such as you, and that one day you will be in my place, helping others, just the way I hope I'm helping you, right here, right now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps. I will be on to the next in these, hopefully a little bit shorter IRTs, and then we'll move back into the other series and I'll bring everyone up to speed from the historic perspective. Thank you again. I hope you're having a great evening out there, everyone. Wishing you much love and blessings. See you on the other side.